From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, cptallybar.com. Check it out for the daily specials Wednesday. A little bit of that quasi-Cuban, if you will. A little bit of that ham sandwich, pressed ham and Swiss. Check that out. You can also put an order online. Also, Corey, it's the gift that goes over well with everybody. The gift cards from Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. You can actually sign up and get a gift card on their website. And the cool thing is you can also check your balance on that gift card right on the website as well. So you can be like, man, I ordered 100 wings the other week. How much more do I have left on the balance? Go to cptallybar.com. Check it on the website. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. If you could, maybe hit the thumbs up on YouTube. Maybe hit the subscribe button. Maybe go and hit a review on podcast app, the Apple Podcast app. 5 stars, please. 5 is good in this one. Maybe even a review with it as well. We've got Michael Langston doing a live recruiting show, Corey, on the Warchant TV YouTube page, 7 o'clock.
Nice,
You want to tune in with that? You want to come, hang out with us, talk crew?
I'll probably just be arriving in Charleston, but I'll watch the feed later when I'm going to bed.
Okay. How are we feeling about Brady's team and their chances at this elite tournament in Charleston?
I think they had a really rough tournament, Aslan. They lost to a couple teams. This last one, they lost to a couple teams they shouldn't have lost to. They blew an 8-run lead in the 5th inning. They were up 8-0 and were just cruising to a run rule win, and then it just all fell apart. They lost on 3 walk-offs essentially, which was a tough pill to swallow. But if they can overcome that and just flush that, I like their chances. I think there's only like 16 teams in it, and I feel like they got as good a chance as any. They're a talented club, Aslan. They just got to find themselves. They're in a little rut right now. They got to find themselves. And the Clark kid needs to hit a couple extra base hits.
Will there be a time in the future where we look back and we shame parents for letting their children play baseball? It almost just feels cruel. I mean, it is a sport based upon and predicated around failure. Like, why put your kids through this stuff? I mean, I know it builds them up, makes them stronger, but there's other ways we can do that than having them bat 184.
The success though is what makes you happy, right? You have some failure, and then you like this year, for instance, Brady started the year batting last. He was barely playing, and now that's not because he's bad. It's a lot of good players on this team, and you have to earn your spot. And there's 13 kids for 9 spots, and then he worked hard. He took some lessons, and he worked hard, and he focused, and now he's the leadoff hitter.
Okay.
And I assume leads the state in on-base percentage. He gets on base all the time. We're trying to get him a little more power, but he hits the ball hard. He's making contact. He runs hard. He's pretty fast, and he's stealing a lot of bases. So he made himself, pivotal to the team. He's not just a throwaway player. Not a throwaway player. But he's not just a fringe player. Yeah. He's integral. He became that. Like, he leads them, and he's not the fastest kid on the team, but he's got like 37 steals out of 39 attempts. Like, he's like Vince Coleman out there. Well, that's not true.
I was going to say, I want you guys to stop. I want you to stop action the next time he steals a base and just pretend that he broke some record and have him do the Ricky Henderson speech.
I'll lift the base up.
Yeah.
Now I am the greatest of all time, or whatever Ricky said. Yeah, that would be funny. Once he gets his 40th, if he gets his 40th up there in Charleston, I'll stop the game and make them give him the base. That would actually be really funny. That's good, Tom. That's funny. But I mean, that's the lesson you get in baseball, right? Like, you start off slow. You don't feel like you're contributing. You keep working hard. You have a couple good games. You get some confidence, and then you become the leadoff hitter, and everything flips. And that's how it works in baseball and in life.
Another programming note: tomorrow on the show we'll have Trey Cunningham. He, the reigning Zaxby's indescribably good player of the week. Also an All-American and ACC outdoor champ, as well as a national champ, 60-meter indoor hurdles. He'll try to add to that with an outdoor title next week. But we'll have him on the program. Video should also probably be up as well.
He's more than just like an All-American. FSU's had a million of those in track, and he's more than just a national champion because FSU's had a lot of those. He's like doing historical stuff. Like, he's running like top 6, 8 fastest times in world history.
Yes.
In his event, which is the 110-meter hurdles. And he did that I think in the 60-meter hurdles too in the indoor. So he is like an all-time great track athlete.
Yeah. We also got Ira Schofel coming up later today, talking about all things collegiate athletics, mainly football, mainly Florida State sports. So we don't have a lot to get to because we did all that with Ira. But I saw this on the warchant.com Tribal Council. Shout out to our guy Dave in Bardstown, Kentucky. Bourbon is your friend. Screenshotted a tweet from Julian Armella. And it's like he did like a note, did a screenshot and posted on his Twitter feed. It says, "Dear FSU fans, football, and coaches, there are a couple things I would like to get off my chest." And I was like, oh, gosh, no. He's got 5 bullet points. "We are going to change the culture and become victorious in the upcoming years. As a student athlete, all of you have my word that I will raise the standard and give it all I got. Some things you're getting from me is a MF dog, a teammate, family member, someone who doesn't stop grinding until the job is finished. And finally, I'm excited, extremely excited, and blessed to be a part of your family. Can't wait to start this chapter with y'all. Sincerely, Big Jew." I think J-U, that's how we pronounce it, Julian, so Jew,
Yeah.
Big Jew. I mean, I like it.
You might want to come up with another nickname.
Okay, right.
But go ahead, yeah.
I like it. I know everybody else likes it too. He's got lots of likes. But let's be nice to him if maybe he doesn't start day one. I just feel like it's such a tough sort of line to walk for these guys. Like, Brady's going to fall into the same sort of trap where it's like, all right, man, do I promise I'm going to bring the first national championship to Dick Howser Stadium in Florida State, or do I just come down and work and grind? But do you like seeing this kind of stuff from a kid who hasn't even stepped foot on a campus yet, Corey?
No, not really. But it doesn't bother me. But it's I'm older, but I'm more of like just prove it on the field. Just show me. You don't have to tell me what you're going to do. It's great. I love that that's your attitude. But just show me what you're going to do. And don't make declarations. And I know he didn't. Nothing was like, we're going to win 3 national titles and I'm going to be a first-round pick. It wasn't anything like that. But I think the sentiment is appreciated.
Yeah.
But he'll learn very quickly that nobody in this locker room cares what a big deal he was in high school. And nobody in this fan base will once he starts playing. It all matters what you do on the field and how you play on the field, and that's what matters most. So hopefully he's a very good player. They do need leaders. You know what I mean? Especially in that group. They don't seem to have a bunch of
MF dogs.
Really talkative. Yeah. Like alphas. If he's that could be great, but it will not matter if you can't play. If you can play and you're an alpha and you talk, that's great. That's awesome. But the most important thing is being able to play. So let's take care of that, and then you can be the bet. If you're a very good offensive lineman, you can be the captain and you can be the big leader on the team. And I hope that happens for old big Julian.
These young kids these days, man, they're quite bold. We were out in Duval County last week, Michael Langston and I, doing some recruiting trips, and we spoke to Jordan Hall, this solid defensive tackle out of Westside High School in Jacksonville. Maybe Orange Park? No, I think it's Jacksonville. Don't want to take anything away from Duval County, although I think Orange, anyhow. But he was talking about one of the things that he likes about Florida State and seeing the growth and Coach Odell is like he started talking about Robert Cooper, and he's like, yeah, you saw Coop last year playing a little bit overweight, maybe not as quick as he needs to be. But this spring I saw him working out, and he's lost weight, and he's moving so much faster, so it's cool to see that. And I'm like, we're going to have Big Coop on the show here in a week or so. And, like, Jordan, like, I'm not going to tell him this, but he watches some of the stuff that we do on Warchant. I don't know if, he meant well, but it's like, maybe don't say that you've been watching a guy that's, in the trenches right now. And like, yeah, he wasn't doing all that great. But look at him now. So these young guys are a little bit bold. But we like it, though. It's gives us something to talk about.
They're young, right?
Yeah,
like, if I was 17.
He meant
well. Exactly right. And if I was when I was 17 and if I had a platform, I'm sure I would have said a lot of stuff that maybe 10 years later or 5 years later in hindsight would be like, well, who are you to make any kind of comment like that? You've done nothing in your life other than be pretty good at high school football, or be a pretty good high school English student. When I'm talking about myself there. So who are you to make these declarations or say somebody looked out of shape? But again, I do think he means well and he's trying to compliment the team. But it's the innocence of youth.
Corey, one of the things that I run into a lot on the dating apps, haven't had a lot of success, obviously, on them recently. And by recently, I mean like
Why do you say we didn't know that? Why is that obvious?
I haven't talked about it. I haven't brought anybody up. I haven't brought any sort of stories, tales to the show. But, you'll start talking back and forth about certain things, and it's like, oh, are you judging me? And it's like, I don't know, like, yes. I mean, aren't we constantly judging each other, like, all the time pretty much, unless we're friends and colleagues, I guess, to a certain level that we've established kind of trust in all these things. But looking at the Twitter machine here, like, I wonder when's the first, maybe Mark Krikorian, the handling of that. I'd want to give Michael Alford the benefit of the doubt. I think that was, I don't think he did anything wrong necessarily. I don't think Mark Krikorian did anything wrong necessarily either. Just didn't seem like he could find like a sort of compromise. He was given a fair compensation package, but then again, listen, there's certain politics involved in running a program that I'm not aware of. But I'm kind of curious to see, like, when will it be the first time that we can maybe judge just how good of an athletic director Michael Alford is? Because Pete Thamel reporting that Boston College, which I don't know if Boston College is a good job because they keep having guys leave for other places. Maybe it's like the new Saban rehabilitation place. You go to BC, you go to Chestnut Hill for a few years, and then you end up finding something better. But Blake James, who drove Miami into the ground, is being reported by Pete Thamel to be their perhaps leading candidate, or at least they've reached out to him. Like, I like where Florida State's at, and I know, like, I don't want Blake James. I mean, there's a lot of athletic directors I'm glad that Florida State doesn't have. But I wonder, like, in your mind, what can an athletic director do here at Florida State with what Florida State's dealing with that you think would be like a real big win to where we can kind of, make a determination, a judgment, if you will, that, yeah, man, good hire, good move. We like what we have.
Man, I don't know. It's such a hard job to judge. Like, I think Randy Spetman, and I respect him and his work before he became the Florida State athletic director, just in his life and his career and his military career. But he was in over his head as the athletic director at Florida State. It was clear. It was obvious from the get-go. He was kind of hired to do the bidding of someone else. The hires he made as assistant athletic directors were just, a couple of them were just baffling and awful. But he also hired Lonnie. Like, he was that's on his watch, that Randy Spetman was the AD when Lonnie was hired. That's a great hire. He was the AD when the transition happened between Jimbo and Bobby Bowden. So, was he a good AD? I mean, if you look at the results, he hired he had to be the AD that was, when he ran away from us when we were trying to ask him about Bowden being let go, whatever. But
tell the story again, Corey. It never gets old.
So they announced, Bowden announces his resignation, or Florida State announces it. I can't remember. That was
Jeff Bowden or Bobby?
Bobby.
Okay. Not resignation. Did he announce a resignation or retirement?
Whatever it was, he got fired, but it was painted in a way that he resigned. And they had a team meeting. This was after the Florida game, so before what ended up being the Gator Bowl game. So Bowden says, I'm going to coach one more game, and that'll be it. And they have a players-only meeting, and then FSU decides to have Christian Ponder and Dakota Watson talk about the decision, either to accept Bowden's retirement, resignation, whatever, basically that he was fired. And so they talk, Dakota Watson and Christian Ponder. Randy Spetman's in the room, and when they're done talking, we all go up to Randy Spetman to get comments from him, and he makes a beeline to the elevator with his back to us, walks straight to the elevator, won't answer questions, won't look at any of us. And we're not like, hey, turn around. We're not doing that. We're like, hey, Randy, a couple comments. And he just beelines it very quickly, almost like a light jog to the elevator, turns around, hits the floor, and goes straight up. And that was it. That was his leadership in that moment. And I'm sure he was under orders to not say anything because TK didn't want him to say anything. So TK had a quote in the release. Spetman had a quote in the release, and that was it. They weren't going to say anything else. So that's what happened that day. But anyway, but Spetman was there. Does he get credit for Jimbo? Like, he was the AD when they came up with the head coach in waiting, I think. But he was definitely the AD when Jimbo took over as head coach. He was the AD that hired Lonnie. So that's 2 national championships right there. He was the AD that kept Krikorian happy, apparently. But the raising of money, the hobnobbing with boosters, all the other things that you want an AD to do, he was not very good at. So what is the AD's job? Is it to raise money or is it to hire good coaches? And does Spetman get credit for Lonnie? I don't know. I don't know how that worked. He also hired Chris Poole, who's had a nice career here at Florida State as the volleyball coach. But I don't know who gets credit for those hires. I just think because there's so many factors that weigh into hiring a coach. I think the biggest thing is raising money. Lots of money. I just think that, especially in 2022, if you can get on par with most of your competitors on a financial basis and reach out to the people that need to be reached out to, looking at you, Sarah, but everybody else in the country that's a Florida State grad or a Florida State fan, and get them on board with whatever your vision is, whatever you're selling, that's more important than hiring a good tennis coach or a good softball coach or a good soccer coach, in my opinion. And it's all about football. I get it. Football is the train that drives everything, but he didn't hire this guy. This was not his hire. So you're asking me, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to – if Norvell went like – Jimbo won a national championship on Stan Wilcox's watch. Was that Stan Wilcox's doing? Did he get credit for it? I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean –
Tough answer. A bad answer to a tough question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We should have pre-production meetings and talk about these things.
Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. You there, Corey?
Okay. I couldn't hear you talking.
Oh, it's fine. I saw this. This was last week. Our show's not last week this morning. It's just, Wake Up Warchant. Super Green Knoll said that he titled this thread, let's talk some hoops real quick. Odd closure to Osborne. This is like a week ago. And his status of potential returning to the team. A cake maker I follow locally in Tallahassee posted the farewell cake that was made for him. It was pretty certain he wasn't coming back, but that takes the cake as far as ways to see it finalized. What does that mean?
Yeah,
then?
to actually have a thanks for everything, Malik cake. Yeah, I guess that hammers that home.
So what do we got to do? We got to be speaking to him here soon, right? We got to start filling some of these spots.
You know what, buddy? So Brady's going to be at the Leonard Hamilton camp on next Monday. So whenever that would be, 5 days from now.
Okay.
June 5th, I think, is the first day. He's coming straight from Charleston back here to the Leonard Hamilton camp. And you know what old intrepid Corey Clark's going to do? Ooh. Because all the players are counselors. I'm just going to look around who's out there.
Okay.
They're not. Then we'll know who's on the team. I'm going to look and check off all the players, make sure they're here. Then if they're here, we know they're on the team, and we'll go from there.
All right. We'll speak to
and John Butler. I don't think has made up his mind yet. Okay. Again, the longer it goes, you think he's probably not here. He was at the combine. I think we've talked about this. He was at the combine, and he is not, as far as I know, withdrawn from the draft. And I think the deadline for that would be coming up in the next week or two to withdraw and go back to school. So we should have some finalization, if that's a word, on him here in the next week or two, I would think. But I mean, as the longer he goes with returning to school, I would think the more it means he's obviously not returning to school, which, again, good luck.
Yeah. All right, Irish O'Fell coming up after this singular commercial break in your Wake Up Warchant podcast. Winners Wednesday means we bring Irish O'Fell in here. We were going to have an All-American today, but we bumped them for Irish O'Fell, managing editor of Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Ira, you're not the CFO. You're not our chief financial officer. You're our managing editor. But I saw this on the Twitter machine as well as our tribal council, the message board on Warchant.com, that UCF sold their stadium naming rights about in the ballpark of $2 million a year to FBC Mortgage, I guess a mortgage company. You've talked to a lot of people that are important that deal with finances in the college level. Even you were at ACC meetings. Is this something that you could maybe see Florida State kicking the tires on and researching and seeing what it's all about? 'Cause, the ACC, Jim Phillips is going to have a chief revenue officer. I figured if you had a chief revenue officer at Florida State, this might be one of the things they'd go after. If UCF can get $2 million, sky's got to be the limit for us.
Yeah, that's right. The one thing I know is I do think there's an issue with you have to go through the legislature to change certain facilities. I believe that's the deal. I have to do a little bit of research, but that's one of the things I was told in the past is that they can't just name like the Donald L. Tucker Center. Like I think that the naming of that arena I think that went through legislature. And so I think so if you're going to get a sponsorship to it, I think there's a process you have to go through. And I don't know, UCF may have already gone through theirs. But everybody I've ever talked to at Florida State about that topic has always kind of dismissed it as it wouldn't bring in the kind of money that it would be worth, selling the naming rights to your stadium. So I've never gotten the impression from anybody at FSU that they're seriously considering it. But, Florida did it with their arena, the O'Connell Center. They changed it to whatever some companies.
Tech.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it can certainly be done. But every time I've talked to somebody at Florida State about it, they've acted like it's not something that they're seriously considering.
I mean, I bring that up, and I was one of the people that got up in arms when they put a McDonald's logo on the side of the scoreboard that you could see from Pensacola. So, I feel like I'd be a little bit of a hypocrite asking that, because I know a lot of people are like, I can't believe we just put a logo of McDonald's on our new Jumbotron. Like, how dare we do that? But I don't know. Money's kind of important.
Hey, I think Corey might have been one of the first people to go after him on that. So relax with that. Corey, you still with us? Did he leave?
I don't look at that. All right, just you and I. It's just you and I, Ira. Just you and I talking shop on here. Mel Kiper.
How about now?
Oh, there you are.
There he is.
Man, my mic just stopped working. That was weird.
Did you hear us?
I could. Yeah, I was actually talking, and
okay.
It was pretty. It's like my life in general.
I'm remembering that correctly, though, right? Weren't you one of the first people to go after the?
Well, because people on the boards were like, they called it McDope. And so I went and did a story like how that happened, because it had never happened before. It was like a picture of a ring. It was a picture of Bowden. It just wasn't, or Renegade. It wasn't somebody's company. And then when I found out how much money was spent for it, it's like, well, yeah, that really wasn't worth it. That's ridiculous. Like that, it was not Aslan what you would think it would be to get a McDonald's billboard that size on the most famous building in a city. So that was what was really disappointing. Like if they were offering millions of dollars, sure, put McDonald's at the 50-yard line.
And also the execution of it, like it just looked garish.
Yeah, startling and garish. And I was going to say, like, big time programs don't really do that with their. I know it's an NFL thing, but there hasn't been a real program that's named their stadium something, right? Like not Alabama, not Georgia, not Ohio State, USC, Michigan. They all just are named their stadiums.
Yeah, but their finances are a little bit different than ours, Corey. We got to.
I just think it looks. I think it looks low rent, man. I think it looks like UCF.
Well, I guess it depends who you get. I mean, if we get AT&T, that's not a bad one, But I mean,
Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, come on.
All right, I'm with you there. All right, okay. All right, the tack glasses.
Yeah, maybe that's what the revenue officer will come up with. Every conference in the ACC will be named after the tack classes.
Yeah, man, that's perfect. Or that whatever Joe Namath is hawking.
The thing, it's funny. Like when I was back, I remember when Florida Field got Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Like Ben Hill Griffin donated like $10 million, and they put his name out for life, like for $10 million. I don't know if that would buy you 5 years today. But that was a person, so nobody complained. If it's a business, I think to Corey's point, I think it does look cheap, but I guess that's what it comes down to, though, is like, is that program changing money? I mean, how much money did UCF get?
10 years, $19 million. So about $2 a year.
A couple million a year. I don't know that that's worth it, but at UCF it might be. I don't know if it is at Doak. I don't know.
Hey, on Wednesday, Ira, or rather Tuesday as we record this, Mel Kiper Jr. released his big board for 2023, and we all know how much salt we put in those things, or how much credence we put into those in the middle of the summer. But hey, Mel knows his stuff, and it's something to talk about. We do a little thing called forcing the football in the program here, Ira. You're familiar with that,
for sure.
And he's got the guy Will Anderson from Alabama, number one, obviously, and then in the middle. And he named these two guys. He dropped their names. And they did a video, and everything was rolling when he was talking about it on SportsCenter. But at 12, he puts Tyler Van Dyke from Miami, and then Anthony Richardson, 13, the quarterback from Florida. I don't have ESPN Plus, so I don't know if Jordan Travis is on his big board. I don't think so. I think somebody would have probably tweeted about it if he had been. So we feel good about where Florida State is at. But the fact that these two programs allegedly have NFL first-round talent quarterbacks and Florida State doesn't, people think that maybe this roster isn't where it needs to be. I mean, it's obviously not where it needs to be for Florida State standards. But, Do we like Mike Norvell that much? Do we like Mike Norvell that much more than Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal, that we think with having, I don't want to call him an inferior quarterback, but a quarterback that's not as heralded isn't as big of a deal when we think about Florida State's ceiling this season coming up?
I think anybody that doesn't realize how important quarterbacks are, is crazy. And it is weird to me that head coaches don't. To me, if you were a head football coach, you should put every waking minute of every hour into getting a great quarterback. It's more important than anything, right? I mean, it's the most important position by far. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal that they have really talented guys. Now, the two things I would say, though, is one, the Anthony Richardson kid, I mean, people of Florida aren't super confident about him staying healthy, him being what you want. So, I mean, is he a rare talent? Yes, he's a rare talent. But I don't think that he's a sure thing by any stretch. But, yeah, I mean, if you're Mike Norvell, you've been on campus for 3 years. Now, maybe A.J. Duffy is that guy. I don't think anybody thinks Jordan Travis is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL unless something dramatically happens to his passing and seeing the field this season. But maybe A.J. Duffy could be that guy. His first quarterback he signed was Chubba Purdy, who I never thought was that guy. We watched practices last season before he left the team, and I don't know how you guys felt. I never watched Chubba and thought, oh yeah, that guy's gonna be a first-round pick. AJ is impressive. I mean, he can throw the football. He obviously kind of was swimming mentally as the spring went on, but just throwing a football, he's a really talented kid. So maybe he's that guy. But yeah, I mean, you can make a case that, Mike Norvell got the job here 3 years ago. Should you not have made getting a star quarterback your number one priority in everything you did? Because if you don't do that, then everything else is kind of, you're never their ceiling is only going to be so high unless you've got a great quarterback. So I think that's a valid criticism if that's where you're going. I mean, you have to get a great quarterback, and he's been here 3 years and has yet to do it.
I wasn't really saying, I'm sorry, Corey, I really was saying as a criticism. I just find it interesting that I think, the over-unders, I think, on the win totals for probably Florida State and Miami are all 7.5, maybe, I don't know, is Miami 8.5?
I think Miami's is higher.
Yeah, but, I think the roster has taken such a big hit at Florida State over the last few years, and obviously with Willie Taggart about the roster's not good enough. Well, I mean, if they've got a quarterback that's not projected to be a first-round pick, but they're over-under for win total is in the same neighborhood as these two programs in state that have potential first-round talent quarterbacks. I mean, is that an indictment that Mike Norvell is seen as being a really good coach, or is maybe this roster better than it's been given credit for?
Were you going to say something, Corey? I don't want to take away your thunder if you had an opinion there.
Are you saying you just didn't want to answer Aslan's question?
Well, I'll give it a shot. I don't know what it says. I don't think that, I don't think that anybody would tell you, if you were going into, again, an NFL draft, I don't think anybody would pick Jordan Travis, either of those two guys. Having said that, he does bring a lot of skills, especially to a school like Florida State. Both of those programs have first-year head coaches, so that's a knock on them, whereas Mike Norvell is in year 3, and he's kind of established his culture, and he's got the program heading in the direction he's going into. I feel like if I say culture every week, you'll stop inviting me on.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment.
Gene, we just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But no, I think I think there are some things Florida State has going for it that maybe those schools don't. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think the quarterback part is a plus in Florida State's part of the equation. I think, it may speak to that he's improved some of the other parts of the roster to a high level, but I think Miami's over under might be 8.5. I think they're seen as better than Florida State.
Yeah, the point I was going to make was, well, twofold. One, a mock draft for quarterbacks in May is worth about as much as, in nothing. It's not worth anything. Like the first couple, sure. But once it happens every year. They'll project guys to be a first-round pick, and they go 4th or 5th round. It's happened in Miami. Brad Kaya was a projected first-round pick. Stephen Morris was a projected first-round pick.
Yeah, and I think Sam Howell last year, right?
Yeah. Yep. And it happens every year. I don't put any weight in that at all. I'm not saying that those guys aren't good. Van Dyke especially. Richardson, to me, hasn't proven enough yet. He was pretty good against Florida State, but I mean, he also, Emory Jones started most of the year. So I don't know how many did Anthony Richardson play 12 quarters of the whole season, 10 quarters. Yeah. So we'll see about him. Van Dyke is much more proven, but also those two coaches walked into better situations, right? Like Mario Cristobal takes over a program that has an all ACC caliber quarterback that was just toiling on their bench. And now he's got that. I mean, that's a really, Mike Norvell, when he took over a program, had nothing. James Blackman was the guy. He didn't have a Taylor Van Dyke waiting for him. And then a Jordan Travis that had transferred in that nobody knew if he could throw the ball forward. So I just think those are when we're judging these programs, the in-state programs, their quarterback situations are better, but through no work of the current head coaches.
Right. But don't you think though, again, if Florida State's not successful, and if Jordan, for whatever reason, doesn't lead them to 8-9 wins, either this season, next season, like that's going to be what kind of dooms him in the sense that,
absolutely,
that he, and again, I think Jordan, there's a lot of things that we like about Jordan for sure, no question, but if you look at college football and the fact you have to have a quarterback and you'd like to have a quarterback who can really throw it, then should you have been devoting all of your resources to that? You know what I'm saying? Like, and if you did, maybe, I don't know, maybe you couldn't get one, but it seems like maybe you'd find one, and so I'm not criticizing him for where they're at, but you have been here for 3 years and that's the most important position and they really haven't. I mean, AJ may be that guy. We'll see. He's been on campus for a few months, but over the first 2.5 years, hadn't really done that.
I would think, honestly, like if they go 6-6-ish again, and Jordan Travis misses a couple games and looks kind of like he's looked, some really great moments, some really nice throws, and then some other 3rd and 6 where it's just ugly. I don't think you can go, and I know I'm projecting a year ahead from now, but Mike Norvell would not be able to go into 2023 with Jordan Travis as his quarterback.
Right.
Fans would be done with it. Because again, and I think that's a point that maybe Aslan wasn't making, but is a very strong point, is like when these Florida State fans look around and see, the kid, Sam Hartman, and then obviously Richardson and Van Dyke, and they see all these teams that are playing with these quarterbacks, and then you're throwing out a kid that struggles sometimes to throw it for over 200 yards. You can't make them in 2023 get excited about your team again if that's the same quarterback you're throwing out there, if he doesn't show any growth. But that's an if, because he did show growth last year. And if he continues it, he might actually end up being a pretty darn good college quarterback in 2022. And if he's not, you have to cut bait. And you either go to Duffy or you spend half your salary on getting the best quarterback in the country to come play for you, because otherwise your college football career at a high level is over. That's how important the quarterback position is, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few of the quarterbacks, but there's also, Malik Cunningham is a pretty decorated college quarterback. The Devin Leary kid at NC State. They're the kid at Boston College. Jerkovich at Boston College. They're going to face a lot of good quarterbacks, and so it would be magnified. And what concerns you a little bit is that first year, and maybe it's not fair, the fall of 2020 because of what everybody's going through with COVID. But I think if you polled most fans and media going into the 2020 season, everybody, I would say 95% of the people you talk to would have been like, man, don't hope that James Blackman's going to be different than he was these last couple of years. Like maybe there was something in there at some point, but it seems like it's long gone after that bowl game in 2018 or 2019. Like don't expect a different James Blackman. And maybe he didn't have any other choice. Maybe, you hope Chubba would be here. You hope, whatever. You had some other possible options, but you ended up starting James Blackman early in that season, and so to your point, if then 2 years later, it feels like you've married yourself to Jordan Travis and it doesn't have the progress or the success you hope, that's going to come back to you as well. But I'm with you. I think you and I for sure. I can't speak for Aslan, but you and I for sure think that Jordan could be a successful college quarterback. But if it doesn't work out, it's going to really look bad for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wasn't even trying to make this a quarterback discussion. I was trying to make this a larger, broader picture about the rosters. Because again,
bad.
No, you're fine. But yeah, I mean, looking at this on Vegas Insider, Florida's over/under is 7.5. Miami's is 8.5. Florida State is 7.5. Funny enough, the coaches that I compare Norvell to, the ones that got hired in that 2020 cycle that have gotten off the better starts than he has. Arkansas, their over/under is also 7.5. My boy Lane in Oxford, he's also at 7.5. Mel Tucker up there in East Lansing, he's at 7.5. Michigan State, Baylor's at 8.5, but Baylor probably was in a little bit better shape than everybody else. So yeah, again, I guess I was just trying to make the argument, not an argument, but just maybe the discussion about this roster is good enough for everybody. Like, don't expect 10 wins, but I think like 8 wins, which obviously is a number that we keep throwing around on this program. Jeff Cameron showed the headlines. It seems like their roster is built to that specification when the number is like that, and you've got a quarterback that might not be as highly thought of as some of the other people in your state and your conference. Moving along, our last thing. Where's Destin Hill? When is he coming? Where is he? Huh?
I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to the last topic real quick, and just say that the one thing I would say that I think that when you talk about those projections and why, back to your original question, I really think so much of that is the defense, and the fact that we've been doing these position profiles or position breakdowns people can see at warchant.com, but if you look at a position by position on defense. Defensive tackles, that's going to be a really good group. Linebackers are going to be a really good group. Safety is going to be a really good group. And corners can be a really good group depending on what happens at the other spot. But you like the nickel corner and Kevin Noles, and you really like Amari and Cooper. So that position could be really good. So that defense could be, that could be a really I think some people have said, or Jeff was telling us, Corey, that ESPN has FSU as like one of the top 3 defenses in the ACC looking into the season. Well, if you've got one of the top 3 defenses in the ACC, and you have a functioning offense, yeah, man, you should win 8 games.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the optimism rides. And if you get anything remotely positive out of the offense, I think that gets you there. But I don't know about Destin Hill, buddy. I just know that everybody we talk to at Florida State seems to think he's going to be here. But when he gets here, then we'll throw a party. I don't know, like what would be the appropriate reaction? Should we throw a party,
champagne,
like a Destin Hill party?
Champagne on Corey again?
Probably champagne on my face again. Yeah, yeah. I think that's the only answer there on that one.
And honestly, how did Dimitri Emanuel from Charlotte? We were able to speak to him, which I guess that means he's already enrolled. Right. I mean, maybe I should pull up the academic calendar. I don't know it off the top of my head, but was there a window where Emanuel was able to enroll in classes? And I guess, I don't know, summer C, I would think, starts sometime in June. So I know people think that it's June 1st. We heard that he was going to be here in June, which I was saying that tongue in cheek. I don't think by June they meant June 1st that Destin Hill would be at Florida State and report. But I don't know. I mean, I guess do we need to look at the next time the window opens to register for classes as being the time that he would come to campus? Is that how this would work?
I don't know that it's an academic thing. I think it's, there's from everything I've always been told, it's like life issues. And so, I don't think it's related to whether or not he could get in at a certain date. But
no, I don't think he's. I'm not saying he's like academically ineligible, but like he can't just show up at Tallahassee like on June 2nd and fiddle around and not be enrolled in classes, right? Like you have to be enrolled in classes to go work out and do stuff with the team, right? Or can you?
I'm not sure about that. They do.
Who's even paying attention, Aslan?
There's some. I mean, there's like a summer bridge program that's a big deal that they can get into, but I don't know that it's hard and fast. Like this date or that date. I mean, think about some of these players that show up in colleges 2 weeks into a semester. So I don't know that I wouldn't tie too much to that. I just think it's, from our perspective, it's, until somebody sees him physically, because, when he signed in the 2021 signing class, they were, they led people to believe he would show up last summer. Then that one didn't happen. That was, okay, well, maybe he'll be here by this fall or January. Then it became definitely January. You'll definitely see him in January. Then that didn't happen. So then it became the summer. And so now, here we are. So, people at Florida State still think he's going to arrive. And I know, a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at that. But it's just, you can't really proclaim it until we actually see him. But I don't know that there's a date that, okay, if he's not here by this date, he won't be here at all. I think it's more flexible than that.
All right. Corey, you got anything for our guy? You want to tell him you love him? Let him go?
I would say if he's not here by Halloween, let's stop expecting him.
That's your drop dead?
I'm giving up. Yeah, Halloween is my drop dead.
What about the Clemson game? That's October 15th.
No, I'll give him an extra couple weeks.
Oh, okay.
If he wants to show up before Halloween, that's fine. I just need him here before Halloween.
Oh, because the Miami game's November 5th.
Miami game, you got Miami and Florida, and he should be able to hit the ground running after 3 years off of football.
That's Ira Schofel, managing editor of warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Ira, your knowledge is very much appreciated. Thank you for being here, friend.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Thanks again to Ira. We will speak to Mike Martin Jr. later today, so we should get an idea, hopefully. Shout out to him, by the way. Maybe I'm jinxing it. I think he'll tell us what he's going to do. I think Mike Martin Jr. will go ahead and tell us who he's going to start against UCLA, which then will pave the way for what they will do if they win that game against Auburn, which we would imagine because they're the 1 seed, which is kind of cool. Let's not take that for granted. He's pretty transparent about this stuff. Other coaches might not want to tell you these things. They might not want to tell you these things, but that is what we'll have cooking up on Warchant TV. That's their YouTube page. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. And then the Trey Cunningham interview with whatever news of the day will be waiting for you folks on Thursday, I think. Yeah. Don't forget, also, Michael Langston, live recruiting show, 7 p.m. Wednesday night. For Corey and Ira, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.